Hi, this is Mehdi,
Hey, this is Fran.
and this is Total Tactics Football. Arsenal won 2-1 at the Emirates against West Ham. It was a really gritty and tough affair. Fran, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean Arsenal kind of clenched that one out. I feel like they played quite poorly for most of the game, but ultimately it's down to the fact that they scraped by and had the quality as well to make the kind of goals and get the 3 points. Aubameyang made a fantastic run that allowed Lacazette to score that initial goal. He was just barely onside, and ultimately that's just the individual quality of Aubameyang and his physical characteristics being able to actually make that run. But there was no kind of sort of build up or kind of creative display that lets you think that Arsenal were going to take this game and snuff it out. As soon as Arsenal scored that goal, I think West Ham grew a little bit more in confidence and tried to go for these kind of attacking runs. And Arsenal kind of let them ease back into the game. And for me, it just shows a certain tiredness and I think a certain uncreativity from the players and a lack of confidence as well. There's no progressive passes in the system, and it's not just the fact that players like Xhaka or Ceballos don't have the vision. I feel like they don't necessarily feel like they have the license to, and ultimately, when you have a back three, that puts a lot of pressure on you as the offensive players because you have so many people sitting back. It means that you have to be a lot more precise with your touches, and the fear from Ceballos and Xhaka early on in the game to kind of send passes off to the wingers meant that Arsenal weren't able to actually advance the ball, and that allowed West Ham to get back into the game.
No, that's for sure. You could see with the players, their reaction, their body language, they looked hesitant. The ball was, there's no conviction behind the passes. I think one of the biggest miss was Kieran Tierney today. He pulled up with an injury in the warm up. And I think his loss surprisingly was quite visible. They didn't expect Kolasinac to play, and he was thrown into the game. I don't think Kolasinac and Saka is a good partnership on the left hand side, and Arteta most definitely was not thinking to start Saka with Kolasinac. And considering, Tierney pulls up injured, that completely changes the game plan. And in that respect, we have two players who like to be on the wings. They're not necessarily the best when cutting in onto their weaker foot. It's difficult for Kolasinac to be on the ball. And as a left center back, he doesn't have necessarily the positional awareness at times and the defensive discipline required to be in a back three. It was you could see as soon as Tierney was called injured, it was going to be worse. Tierney isn't just a defensively solid player; he provides those deep passes from defense. Sort of like how Alaba pays for Bayern Munich, and that in a team that lacks creativity is incredibly vital. And in this case, when you take out a player, one of your creative players, surprisingly from defense, that really makes it really difficult to play against a team that's going to have a low block.
That's the thing. It's just the sort of passing out of the back was very poor as well from the Arsenal defenders. I feel like it's been a constant topic over the last 2 years, but you know Arsenal do have a few players who are able to play with more confidence, and that was a big miss. Ultimately, I think you have to give West Ham credit as well. I think Antonio played fantastically on the left-hand side. He was really able to pressure Bellerin at times. His hold-up play is fantastic. He's so strong, so physical. He was able to get on the end of the balls. And, he managed to get that goal somewhat confusingly through the Arsenal defense. At the same time, Soucek had a fantastic game too. I feel like he is a sort of undefendable quality where he's so tall, he becomes always a menace for those kind of lofted balls. And West Ham used him to effect. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to score today, and Arsenal were able to kind of get through the result. And I think, the Nketiah goal shows what a little bit of heart does for a team like Arsenal.
No, I absolutely agree with you. Sometimes in the past, Arsenal would have thrown this game away. They would have probably handed it over and conceded because if you look at the second half, West Ham were overly dominating Arsenal, but they got that one important goal. But they need to be careful because you can't sustain this over the course of the season. We saw that with Unai Emery. There were so many times he snuffed it out, but then once the results starts building in, you know, it started turning against him. I'm sure Arteta's going to be aware of that. You could see the relief on his face when the final whistle is blown. And I think, considering the next game is against Liverpool, that's sort of more surprisingly attuned to what Arsenal is comfortable with, playing with a
Absolutely.
team that's going to come out to them. So in a sense, we can see probably a better performance next week. But again, you can't take the champions of England as a it's not a no small feat. It's going to be a tough game.